Jeffrey's hands were steady as he turned the key in the silent house. He had 45 minutes. The driveway was empty. Thomas's old pickup was already gone. Headed to the VFW for his weekly card game, he found the nightstand drawer exactly where he remembered. The lottery ticket was right on top, as if waiting for him.
47 million. And the old man never checks his numbers until Sunday.
He slid the ticket into his jacket pocket and closed the drawer with a soft click. He left the house as quietly as he'd entered, the front door clicking shut behind him. In his car, he allowed himself a thin smile, then drove away. The house sat silent again. The only witness a clock ticking in the kitchen. Thomas wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. And by then, the first half of the plan would already be over. 2 hours later, Thomas's truck pulled into the driveway, headlights sweeping across the silent house. He let himself in, hanging his jacket on the hook by the door with his usual slow precision. Then he stopped. The bedroom door was ajar, and through the gap he could see the nightstand drawer slightly open. He stepped closer and pulled the drawer fully open. The ticket wasn't there.
So that's how this is going to be.
He didn't call the police. He didn't pick up the phone. He walked straight to the hall closet. He reached up to the top shelf, past a stack of old towels, and pulled down a dusty work boot. His fingers found the folded paper tucked deep inside the toe, exactly where he'd put it 16 years ago.
31 years. And she's still looking out for me.
He folded the duplicate ticket into his shirt pocket and headed to the kitchen to start his coffee. The coffee maker hissed to life, but Thomas stood still, the duplicate ticket heavy in his pocket. For 31 years, he had played the same 6 numbers every Tuesday without fail. Eleanor's birthday and their anniversary, dates that had become a sacred rhythm. He never missed a draw, never changed the numbers. Not once. In the early years, Eleanor would kiss him before he left for the gas station, laughing about their future millions. After she passed in 2007, he started buying 2 identical tickets, one for the drawer, one for his boot. It wasn't paranoia. It was a quiet promise to never be caught without a backup.
She always said I was too sentimental for my own good.
16 years, and that boot had never seen the light of Sunday morning until tonight. The coffee finished brewing. Thomas poured a cup and sat down at the table, waiting for the news. The local news flickered on, the anchor's voice cutting through the silence. The winning ticket was sold at his gas station. Thomas didn't move. He stared at the 6 numbers he'd known longer than his own heartbeat.
It's real. After all these years.
Without haste, he walked back to the hall closet and returned the ticket to its dusty hiding place. His fingers lingered on the boot's worn leather before he closed the door. He paused by the bedroom dresser, glancing at the framed photo of Eleanor.
You'd tell me to be patient, wouldn't you?
Then he returned to the kitchen, poured another splash of coffee, and sat down. The television murmured on about the anonymous winner, but his face was stone.
Let Jeffrey make his move. The real ticket's right here.
Across town, the same news broadcast played in Jeffrey's living room, the jackpot numbers flashing on screen.
Can you imagine? Dad's gas station. He's probably got the winning ticket in his drawer right now.
Jeffrey's hand tightened around the folded ticket in his pocket.
Keep it together. She can't know.
He excused himself to the bathroom, locked the door, and pulled out the stolen ticket with trembling fingers. One by one, he checked the numbers against the television through the cracked door.
Match. All 6. $47 million.
Jeff, you okay in there?
Fine. Just stomach's a little off. I'll be right out.
He folded the ticket, tucked it back into his pocket, and looked at his reflection. The man staring back was already rich. Jeffrey sat in his car outside the lawyer's office, the signed trust documents on the passenger seat.
They'll never trace it back to me. By the time anyone figures it out, I'll be long gone.
In the lawyer's office, the attorney had been all professionalism. An anonymous trust is airtight, he'd said.
The lottery commission will pay out to the trust. Your name never surfaces.
Driving home, Jeffrey caught himself glancing in the rearview mirror, a cold sweat beating on his neck.
Thomas hasn't said a word. He doesn't know. He can't know.
That Sunday, Thomas set the table for 3. Jeffrey arrived with a bottle of wine, his smile stretched too wide.
Look at him. A man with a secret is always the loudest in the room.
Thomas carved the roast without comment, watching Jeffrey's hands tremble slightly as he accepted a slice.
You are already starting to unravel, son, and you don't even realize it.
On the 31st day, Jeffrey's lawyer filed the claim through the anonymous trust. That evening, Thomas sat at his kitchen table as the local news flickered on. The anchor's voice filled the small room. A single ticket has claimed tonight's $47 million prize. The ticker at the bottom read, "Anonymous winner claims entire jackpot under state law." Thomas didn't move. His eyes never left the screen, not even to blink.
He really went through with it. Now, let's see how long it takes him to slip.
He reached into his shirt pocket and unfolded the duplicate ticket. The 6 numbers he'd known for 31 years stared back at him, unchanged.
Patience, Ellie. The finish line is close.
The coffee grew cold as the news rolled on, but Thomas just smiled. A thin, knowing line, the same smile he'd worn the day he'd hidden the first backup 16 years ago. The next morning, Thomas walked into the gas station and asked to speak with the manager.
I need the security footage from the night of July 12th.
Back at his kitchen, with the USB drive on the table, he logged into his bank account and searched the transaction history. 2 line items stood out. 2 state lottery purchases, dated the 12th of July, for $4 each. He printed the page and placed it in a manila folder. His movements slow and deliberate. From his wallet, he retrieved the original receipt, folded and worn, and added it to the folder. Then he walked to the closet, pulled down the work boot, and retrieved the duplicate ticket.
Receipt, footage, bank statements. That should be more than enough.
He capped a black marker and, in neat block letters, wrote Jeffrey Mills on the folder's tab. The folder was thin, but it was already the heaviest thing in the house. With the folder tucked under his arm, Thomas walked to the kitchen phone and dialed the number printed on the back of the ticket. The line clicked twice before a professional voice answered.
My name is Thomas Holden. I believe I am the rightful winner of the $47 million jackpot. Someone else has already filed a claim, but I can prove I purchased the winning ticket.
A long silence followed. Then the woman on the other end spoke in a measured tone.
She asked me to bring everything in person. Told me not to speak to anyone about it.
He set the appointment for the following Thursday at 9 a.m. at the state lottery office.
Jeffrey has no idea. He'll keep spending money he doesn't have.
He replaced the receiver, placed the folder in the top drawer of the hutch, and locked it. The investigation was now set in motion, and there was no turning back. Thursday morning, the lottery office was quiet, the fluorescent lights humming overhead.
Mr. Holden, we have already received a valid claim. You understand the seriousness?
I do, and I am here to show you that the first claim was fraudulent.
He opened the folder and slid the duplicate ticket across the desk. The official adjusted her glasses.
This has the same serial imprint, the same timestamp.
Thomas placed the security still beside the ticket. The image showed him receiving 2 tickets from the cashier, then the bank statement, the original receipt, all laid out like a closing argument.
Mr. Holden, we will freeze the trust immediately. This investigation just became criminal.
Thomas nodded, gathered his copies, and placed the originals in the official's folder. Outside, the morning sun seemed a little brighter. He had waited 16 years for this walk back to his truck. Within hours of Thomas's visit, the Lottery Commission's legal department placed a call to the attorney of record for the anonymous trust.
A duplicate ticket? That's not possible. I verified the claim myself.
The voice on the other end was cold and procedural. The trust had been flagged, and a full investigation was underway. The lawyer ended the call and immediately dialed Jeffrey. His hand trembled as he pressed the numbers. Jeffrey's phone buzzed on his car console. He glanced at the screen and smirked, expecting good news.
What's the good news?
But the voice on the other end was frantic, not celebratory. The commission had frozen the trust.
Frozen? How? I did everything exactly as you told me. Thomas, he knew. He knew the whole time.
He pulled his car to the side of the road and yanked at his tie, his breath coming in short gasps. That evening, Thomas heard a car screech into his driveway, engine still running. The front door flew open, slamming against the wall. Jeffrey stood silhouetted in the doorway.
You went to the lottery commission. You told them something. What did you tell them? Sit down, Jeffrey. Your voice is shaking.
Jeffrey didn't sit. He leaned over the table, hands planted hard on the wood.
I know you did something. They froze my client's trust. You couldn't just leave it alone. He's still lying to my face. Even now, I am not sure what you are talking about. But if someone committed fraud, the truth has a habit of coming out. He knows everything, and he's not even breaking a sweat.
Jeffrey straightened up, his hands shaking. He backed away from the table, then turned and walked out without another word. 3 days after the confrontation, the Lottery Commission's investigative panel met in a sealed session. They examined the duplicate ticket under magnified light. The timestamps on both tickets matched to the second. The security footage was irrefutable. The panel voted unanimously to declare the anonymous trust fraudulent and invalidated it immediately.
Mr. Holden, the trust is dissolved. You are the legitimate winner. The commission will make a formal announcement in the morning.
That evening, local news interrupted regular programming with a breaking report.
There it is. They used my name.
Jeffrey's lawyer received the official revocation by courier the next hour. The anonymous trust was unwound, and the commission prepared to transfer the prize to Thomas Holden.
He'll scramble to cover his tracks, but the boot has already stepped.
The final act was set. All that remained was the arrest. The next morning, 2 patrol cars pulled into Jeffrey's driveway without sirens. Detective Harris led the way. Jeffrey opened the door in his bathrobe, a coffee mug in hand. He froze when he saw the badge.
Jeffrey Mills, you are under arrest for lottery fraud and grand theft.
What? Number? This is a mistake. Jessica, call my lawyer.
Jessica appeared in the hallway, her face draining of color. She clutched the doorframe.
Jeff, what is this? Fraud? What did you do?
The officers stepped forward, taking Jeffrey's arms and turning him around. The handcuffs clicked shut. Jeffrey's composure shattered. He stumbled as they led him to the car, his eyes wild. Jessica stood frozen in the doorway, her hand pressed against her mouth, tears spilling. The squad car pulled away, and the silence in the house swallowed her whole. Jessica drove straight to Thomas's house, her knuckles white against the steering wheel. She didn't knock. She found him at the kitchen table, coffee cup cooling in front of him.
I just watched my husband get arrested for fraud. Tell me the truth, all of it.
He stole the ticket from my drawer that night. I knew the instant I got home. For 16 years, I've bought a second ticket. Same numbers. I kept it in my work boot.
You let him think he won. You let me think everything was fine. For months.
If I told you, you'd have confronted him. He'd have destroyed the ticket and walked away. I had to let him walk into the trap.
My father used our life as bait. And Jeffrey was worse than I ever imagined.
She sat down across from him, tears dripping onto the table. The silence stretched. Thomas reached across and rested his hand over hers. She didn't pull away, but she didn't look up. After a few days, the numbness gave way to resolve. Jessica walked into a lawyer's office and didn't look back. The lawyer listed the grounds: fraud, breach of trust. She didn't blink, didn't waver, just signed. The papers were filed that afternoon. Jeffrey Mills was no longer her husband in any legal sense. By evening, she stood in a small apartment she'd leased in a hurry, boxes still taped around her. She dialed her father's number before she could lose her nerve.
It's done, Dad. The divorce is final.
On the other end, Thomas exhaled, a sound that carried more grief than any words could.
I am not okay, but I will be. I just need some time.
She hung up and looked around the empty apartment. It smelled of fresh paint and old carpet.
He did what he thought was right. And I did what I had to. Now we both start over.
1 week after the arrest, Thomas stood behind a cluster of microphones in the state lottery office, cameras rolling.
I've been buying this ticket for 31 years. Same numbers. My late wife's birthday, our anniversary.
His calloused hand held up the duplicate ticket, still creased from 16 years in a boot.
The commission has verified the authenticity. Mr. Holden is the sole legitimate winner.
Half of the prize will go to my daughter, Jessica. The rest will establish a foundation in my wife's name.
Reporters shouted questions, but Thomas only smiled, the same thin line he'd worn that first night in his kitchen.
Ellie, we did it. Your numbers finally came home.
He stepped away from the microphones, the oversized check held loosely in both hands. Outside, news vans lined the street, but Thomas walked past them without a glance. Back in his kitchen, he sat in the same creaking chair and let the quiet wash over him. 2 days after the press conference, Thomas called Jessica and asked her to meet him at the bank. They sat across from a banker who slid a single paper toward Jessica. The transfer amount took up half the page.
This is half. No conditions, no strings. It's yours.
Jessica's hand shook as she signed her name. The pen scratched loud in the quiet room.
I don't know how to thank you for this. He really did it. He kept his word down to the cent.
I should have told you sooner. I just couldn't let him slip away.
I know, Dad. It's going to take me a while, but I know.
They stood at the same time, and for the first time since the arrest, they embraced, a long, quiet hug that said more than any apology. Outside the bank, the afternoon sun didn't fix everything, but it felt like a start. In a quiet meeting, Thomas signed the legal documents establishing the Eleanor Holden Memorial Foundation. The purpose was simple: full-ride scholarships for pipe-fitting apprentices, no strings attached.
She would have liked that, giving a kid a chance to work with his hands.
A week later, in a modest union hall, a small crowd gathered to launch the foundation.
This isn't about the money. It's about the woman who taught me to keep my word, even when it cost me.
He spoke of Eleanor without notes, his voice steady but raw, filling the quiet hall.
Every scholarship is in her name. Every student who picks up a wrench, she'll be right there behind them, pushing just like she pushed me.
He handed the first scholarship check to a young man in a welding jacket who nodded with quiet gratitude.
That's it, Ellie. We're passing it on.
The applause that followed was respectful, but the silence after it meant more. Jeffrey stood before the judge in a borrowed suit, his eyes hollow, his confidence long gone. His lawyer spoke of a clean record and family pressure, but the ledger didn't lie. The judge's voice cut through the still air. 6 years federal prison, no eligibility for parole.
He planned this from the start, every step.
Thomas sat in the back row of the gallery, his hands folded over the handle of a cane he didn't need.
You made the choice, son, not me.
The bailiff approached, and the click of handcuffs echoed like a door closing. Jeffrey looked back once, his gaze searching the gallery, but he didn't find what he was looking for. The side door swung shut, and the courtroom exhaled. Thomas rose slowly, straightened his jacket, and walked toward the light spilling from the main doors. Months passed, and the leaves were turning when Jessica finally unpacked the last box in her apartment. She stood by the window with a mug of coffee, the morning light catching the small smile she now wore.
For the first time in years, I woke up without that knot in my stomach.
She had a new job, a small circle of friends who knew nothing about the lottery, and a peace she hadn't expected.
Dad was right. Sometimes you have to let something die before something else can live.
At the same hour, Thomas sat in his kitchen as dusk settled, the house quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator. He held the framed photo of Eleanor, his thumb tracing the edge of the glass.
I did right by you, didn't I? The numbers finally paid off, but not the way I imagined.
He set the photo back on the table and looked around the empty kitchen, the chair across from him untouched.
Tomorrow, I'll go see her again. It's been too long.
The cemetery was still but for the crows. Thomas walked the familiar path, his boots sinking into the damp earth. The dew made the stone look like it had been weeping. He didn't wipe it away. He lowered himself to one knee, the grass soaking his trousers, and laid the bundle of white roses at the base.
It came in, L. Our numbers. 31 years, and they finally came. I made sure no one took what was ours. What was yours?
He traced the engraved dates with a calloused finger, her birthday, their anniversary, the day she'd left him.
You'd be proud, I think. Jessica's safe. The foundation is helping kids, and Jeffrey, well, he's where he belongs.
A breeze stirred the roses, and for a moment, The scent of her perfume seemed to hang in the air. He stood, his old joints complaining, took one last look, then turned and walked down the path, his figure growing smaller with each step. In memory of Eleanor Holden,